Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and I'm going to be trying something new this video. So forgive me if this is a little rocky. This is my first one of these. I came up with this idea of trying new services and apps. There's so many new services out there right now to do all sorts of things, from hosting your data to making different things easier on your dev stack throughout the course of it. And I figured I would give some of these services a try. Not only that, but for the most part, there's going to be some exceptions to this, but for the most part, I'm going to be trying all of these for the very first time. So you're going to be seeing my reactions to things. First up on the docket is going to be Hasura. Now, Hasura at hasura.io is an instant real-time GraphQL engine. It's also open source. Okay. It connects to your databases and microservices and instantly gives you a production ready GraphQL API. So that sounds interesting to me. There is auto scalable for new and existing applications. It looks like they have some sort of ability to migrate. You can get started on Google Cloud, AWS, Docker, or Azure, or DigitalOcean, any of these servers, or you can try it out in 30 seconds with Heroku. That sounds pretty sick. Heroku makes all that stuff really easy. They also have tutorials. Before I get into the pricing, let's scroll down here and see what it is about. Real-time GraphQL on Postgres. Okay, so it looks like it's using Postgres, but I don't know if they're obfuscating that because they say Postgres here, but I don't think you're going to be managing the database necessarily yourself. I don't know. Add it to a new or existing database. Okay, powerful authorization engine can be safely used in front-end apps directly. Sounds cool. 1,000 queries per second with 50 megabytes of RAM. Planet scale workloads. Scaling to 1 million GraphQL subscriptions. Now, I have seen a talk from someone that works at Hasura. I'm blanking on the name right now as I'm doing this live, but and it was very impressive, the amount of load that Hasura could handle. So it looks like GraphQL with microservices. Okay. For teams and productions, you got monitoring, rate limiting, team management, regression testing. So it looks like this thing is very, very complete, so to say. They have a GitHub, a Twitter, and a Discord channel. Love that Discord. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and plug really quickly the Level Up Tutorials Discord. I'll include a link in this video, the standard YouTube thing where you smash those links and subscribe and whatever. So I'll have a link in this video and you can join the Level Up Tutorials Discord where we talk about all sorts of stuff, code stuff, fitness, parenting, music, whatever. Okay, so this looks like it is going to be Hasura. Okay, let's go ahead and check out the pricing. By the way, if some of these words like GraphQL, they don't make any sense to you, check out the What is GraphQL video in this channel. We talk a lot about what GraphQL is, if that's something that's confusing to you or you aren't familiar already. Speaking of which, another small advertisement. The Level Up Tutorials course this month is going to be on GraphQL servers. Okay, that's it. leveluptutorials.com. Sorry, last plug. All right, Hasura is free and open source. Okay, so it's free and open source. I'm sure there's a but to that statement, and I think that comes along right here with Hasura Pro for teams in production. Support for consulting core teams. Talk to us. Get started in 30 seconds. So it looks like they have basically a free version of this, and then if you're getting into teams in production, then you need to contact them to find out the actual pricing. I'm not actually sure what that means in terms of like what the actual pricing for this is. Looks like this just took me to their docs. It was kind of this like getting started took me to a whole nother URL. I mean, docs. That's a little not off-putting, a little sudden. Okay, let's go ahead and if I click get started, does it do the same thing? It does the same thing. Okay, so they don't have a login themselves. You can get started from scratch or with an existing database. You can start using Heroku or using your own with a Docker. So it looks like they don't have a login or any of that themselves. This is something that you use with another service. And that's cool, because then you're not paying the host, you're not paying whatever. So let's go ahead and try this out in 30 seconds on Heroku. I have a Heroku account and I have everything all set up. Again, this is my first time doing this. It is a little weird that you're taken to this thing and now it's all a quick start with Heroku. It would be cooler, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, if there was just like, all right, click this and this and this and this instead of, I know that's sort of what this is, but you know. All right, either way, click the button to deploy to Heroku. I can do that. I'm smart. I can do that. And since I'm already logged into Heroku, it's going to take me to my dashboard and it's going to, hey, create, it worked. That's always good when this stuff works. The worst thing ever is when you click on these things and it doesn't work the way it intended to. So app name, we can just do Hasura first look. And this is going to be in United States. Sure. That's where I'm at. And then it automatically adds in a hobby dev free Heroku Postgres database. And I like that because I don't like procuring my own databases and setting all that stuff up just to try a demo. Don't like that. So this is nice that it's all one click. I think Heroku, while it had its, I don't want to say its heyday because it's still in its heyday, while it's had its shine, I think people often forget about Heroku when it comes to just how easy it is to get going with. Oh no, we see red here. So I, unfortunately, have hit an error in this. Successfully built, successfully tagged. Docker first look, push, build failed due to push exit status 1. Please contact us at help.heroku. Now that is a little bit of an ouchie. That's a bit of a bummer here. In fact, if we go to our Heroku here. No, I don't know. I don't want to blame anybody for this. I don't want to say this is Hasura's fault or Heroku's fault. I honestly do not know. Although you'd have to imagine if this is Hasura's thing, this is probably Hasura's territory. So again, I'm going to try this a second time, see if this works the second time. It's a bit of a bummer that it failed. I don't really want to contact Heroku support to ask why. So maybe I'll reach out to Hasura on Twitter and see what's up with that. It worked. Who knows? Okay, so again, I don't want to cast blame on anybody because this just worked. That could have been a blip. It could have been literally anything. It was a bit of a bummer that I had to do that. But again, I don't want to blame anybody for that. Things happen. I'm not unreasonable here. Okay, so our app was deployed. We can view our app or we can manage our app. This is just going to take us to the Heroku stuff. Again, this is Heroku. This is a host. If you're not familiar with Heroku, check them out, heroku.com. I have no affiliation with them. Although I did host level up tutorials there at one point in time. A big fan. And bam, this is Hasura. So the first thing I notice is there's not a lot of hand-holding. And I'm going to say that there's no hand-holding here because nothing's telling me what to do. And that's fine because this is an open source project that I installed on something and here we're up and running. But if I could offer some feedback, it would be nice to have some sort of something more than just like, all right, here we dropped you off at school, figure it out. Okay, so here we have graphical. If you don't know, this is how you go ahead and query your data. Since we don't have any data, we're not going to be able to query anything. Let's go ahead. You can see it looks like there is some sort of a my query. What do we do if we do query my query? I don't think we can do that. I don't know why. Okay, so again, not a lot of hand holding. We have our GraphQL tab, which is going to be able to allow us to understand our API. Here's the endpoint, here's the headers, here's the Explorer. It's cool that this is the first page, but I don't know if this should be the first page, right? Shouldn't there be something a little bit more hand-holdy as the first page? Again, just my... Okay, so we have an SQL, the Postgres database here. We have no tables, remote schemas where you can connect to different services. Like, this is kind of neat if you wanted to have additional GraphQL services. And events, event triggers. Event triggers look like something triggers something. Something happens, whether or not it's the data changing or there's a background job or something, a mutation. Hasura has an event and then a function or a service or something runs. So it looks like these are just something that you can do to fire off something like a hook or something. Not a React hook, but a hook. Okay, let's create a table, I suppose, and the table name can just be Kung Fu. I love me a good Kung Fu movie. And the columns, we'll just have one column be a title. Now, if you don't know anything about Postgres or databases in general, you're going to hit this and you're going to be like, columns, tables. And that said, Hasura is really, in my mind, it's taking a technical approach to this stuff rather than like a CMS based approach, right? Where a CMS is going to give you here, create a new content type or something like that. This is straight up talking about the database fields, and that's okay. It's all about positioning, and it's very clearly, this is clearly meant for a more technical audience, and that's totally valid. It's going to be a column type text, and it's not going to have a default value. It's not, I guess it could be unique. No, there's Kung Fu movies with the same name, different years. I'm cool with that. Not nullable. Okay, I'm just going to create one more, and this is just going to be a rating. I'm not going to spend too much time here. Column type is an integer, and default value is going to be, let's say, a 0, and this is not going to be unique, obviously. Primary key, oh, I suppose we should have a slug. Or an ID. Let's have this be an ID. A little bit of a bummer that I have to create my own ID and have that be the primary key. Like, it would be cool if this just did this for you, because now I have to click on this gen random UUID. Now, granted, I'm not a Postgres person, so to say, these should be unique. But like, do I have to create an ID myself? Like, it'd be really great. It seems like you wouldn't typically create a table without some sort of an ID. That's just my understanding, but I'm totally potentially tripping. So, okay. Add a foreign key. I don't need to add a foreign key. Unique keys. I don't need any comments. And I'm going to click add to table. Looks like, or add table. Table was created. Okay, so we now have our Kung Fu table with a column, rating, all this stuff. We can browse our rows. Again, here we have a database, okay? It's a database. The interface is pretty good. It feels better than, I don't know. It feels better than it feels better than whatever the default MySQL one is that everybody's super familiar with it. I'm blanking on the name right now. But here, let's go ahead and insert a row. Again, this is very database heavy. It's not a CMS. I'm going to put that out there. If you thought this was going to be CMS-like, it's not a CMS, okay? Title is just going to be, we can just have this 5 deadly venoms. Okay, I love this film. And the rating is obviously going to be a 10 out of 10. Now, generate a random UUID, and we can click save. Invalid type. So this is something that's interesting to me. Also, there was these radio buttons that are now checked that are uncheckable. Be cool if that made some sense. Do I have to type gen random UUID? Do I have to type that in here? Random UUID? Is that something that has to happen? Oh, I have to click default. Okay, that's what these radios are. I haven't seen a lot of horizontal radios function this way. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me that these are these radios, especially when you see radios vertically like this. I don't necessarily understand it, but this is how it works. I'm sure it's something you'd get used to very quickly. We're going to insert again, and it's been inserted. Now let's check out our database. We should be able to, oh, this is neat. It gave us some queries here. And if I click on this, I don't know what this M is here for, but if I click on this, I can say, give me the rating, ID, and title. Of course, you could obviously write that yourself. And then what's neat about this is that it also gives you some of the functions that GraphQL stuff doesn't come with out of the box that you typically have to write yourself, such as a limit, right? Typically, if you're writing your own GraphQL API, you have to write your own limit, whether that's distinct or there's some sort of an offset. So I think this is going to be where Hasura shines, right? Hasura is not necessarily going to shine on the data creation, the data entry aspect, right? It's not going to shine in those areas. It's definitely going to shine in the areas where you're creating a GraphQL API and it's doing stuff for you. You could think of other things in the space as maybe Prisma, I think. To be honest, I'm also going to do one of these on Prisma because I have not used Prisma 2. I used it back when it was GraphQL. And if we're being entirely honest, I think I preferred the simplicity of GraphQL, but I understand why this is also cool as well. But I'll be doing one of these on Prisma as well, now that that's a little bit more mature, I think. Okay, so we have graphical. Check it out, check it out, check it out. I can click play. It's going to query my database, and there we go. Now, this is real-time data, and I don't have a subscription here. I'm curious, slightly curious, if I add something to the database, is it automatically subscribing to this? I don't think it will, but I'm just slightly curious. Okay, so we're going to say, what's a good kung fu movie that I love? It could be Five Fingers of Death. I got a lot of death titles. This one's obviously 10 out of 10 for me. It's hugely influential. We're going to go ahead and click save. It's clearly inserted a row. And if I head back here to my Explorer, sorry, obviously, since I did not subscribe to this data, it didn't update. Not really surprised. That's not really how GraphQL works. So here we go. Cool. Well, what happens if I do want to have a subscription? Because we do have queries created. Do I have to create subscriptions myself? I think I do. Add new subscription. Ooh, my subscription. Okay. And, oh, hey there. If I click play here, subscription must select top level field. Yeah, I don't want type name in there. Why would you do that type name? Okay, check it out. I didn't do anything other than click add new subscription, and it created this subscription for me. All I would have had to do was to just, let me stop this, was to really just put the word subscription in front of the query that we had before. That's all I would have had to do. Obviously, naming your stuff is much better than just having anonymous. Let me bump this font size up. I'm sorry if this is a little bit small here. I wanted to make sure the interface is seen as it is rather than like worrying too much about the GraphQL syntax. But here we go. We're subscribing. This is the basic syntax. All right, back to here. And I'm going to go ahead and add something else to the database while leaving this tab open. In fact, just so we can see it in all of its glory here, I'm going to move this over to the side here, move this over to the side here. Let's go ahead and not create a table, select our table. Let's insert some rows. See, once you get used to this interface, it's certainly normal. It's easy to navigate. But at first look, it definitely wasn't like, oh, this is beautiful, or this is super easy. Not to say it looks bad. It's just maybe not the most user-friendly. Okay, so let's get into it. I gotta have a new movie. And I'm going to do, actually, not off the board. I'm going to do the kid with the golden arm. He's not actually a kid. He's a large man. So you should have called it the large man with the golden arm. All right. And, wow, okay. So I wasn't looking because I was too busy watching this inserted. But you can see we automatically subscribe to our data. If you've used GraphQL and written your own subscriptions before, honestly, this shouldn't seem that surprising, but we didn't have to set up the server-side aspect of anything. So really what I'm seeing from Hasura is something that's really cool, okay? If you don't see the value here, let me tell you, here's the value. Typically, when you're creating your own GraphQL server, you write all of your mutations and resolvers that have to then go do the database's bidding, right? Say, oh, go fetch this, go change this, go do whatever. Then you have to write the code to do the subscription, the things that you watch. You have to write the mutations. You have to write the logic for that. You have to write all of the authentication stuff. And really, there's a lot of code that you have to write. In fact, if you take, sorry for the plug here, if you take the next Level Up Tutorials course, which is how to write a GraphQL API, if you take that course, you're going to see how much code you have to write to do some of what we're doing here. And what we're doing here is really just creating the database table, and Hasura's like, hey, no problem. I got you. It's super easy. And again, it's open source and you're hosting it yourself. So you're not paying a service price for Hasura. You're paying a price for the hosting, whatever. So Hasura looks like a really, really cool platform. In fact, I'm going to be tempted to use this on a lot of stuff. Every time I want to reach for a GraphQL API, I instantly start to write it myself. Level Up Tutorials is a whole custom GraphQL API, and this seems like it would really reduce a lot of the headache there. I wonder what. So they talk about being able to use your own database. My database is in Mongo. I really wonder what that conversion would look like to a Postgres database. I have not looked into it. So either way, this is Hasura, and we're on version 1 here, okay? So if you are watching this at some point in the future, or the past somehow, then just keep that in mind. We're on version 1 here. This site, let me tell you, looks really nice. This site looks really nice. It looks like they have hired designers that they maybe didn't have before, because I had seen their site before. Not that it looked bad, but it looks really nice. It looks very profesh. Yeah, cool. Okay, so check it out. Again, oh, they're having some nice GraphQL basics. Ooh, this is nice. Love the documentation. Now, again, this is just my first look, and this is how I like to learn things, to dive in, to click on things, to try to break it, to have assumptions and have these things prove me wrong about my assumptions. So if you found this interesting, fascinating, whatever, let me know. Check out Hasura at hasura.io. I have zero affiliation with them. I think this is a great choice if you're looking to do a GraphQL database, a GraphQL API, maybe some sort of a headless setup. You're building a site for a client. Now, this might not be a great system if you want your client to go in and log in themselves, because let me tell you, ain't no client going to understand how to do the add columns and tables stuff. Nobody's going to get that. They're not going to get the API. They're not going to get this interface. This is not a WordPress replacement. This is definitely not a headless CMS contender in that sort of space. This to me is much higher level than that in terms of this is going to allow you to build some really, really excellent APIs. And if you have a technical team behind whatever you're doing, the administrator of the content and data, like can work with database tables and understand the stuff to create an API, then this is a really excellent choice. And, or maybe you're managing it all yourself, whatever. But again, this is not going to be the choice for those of you who are looking for a WordPress or a headless WordPress replacement. Okay, so check it out. I hope you enjoyed this series. I'm going to try to do more of these. I have a long list of services that I would like to try, and again, let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one of these. If you want to check out all that Level Up Tutorials has to offer, head to leveluptutorials.com, sign up to become a pro and get access to courses, which we just launched, as well as all of the tutorials. Courses give you a little path to say, hey, here's what you should take, and then take this one next. And then you can do that, and then you get a nice little green check mark. So check it out, leveluptutorials.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next